Senator Batters.
Thanks very much. I know that Public Safety Canada did a small social media campaign on marijuana legalization recently, and I saw one of the components of your Public Safety Department social media campaign last month. Your Public Safety Canada Twitter feed had this tweet. I printed it out on February 20th. It had a picture of a cherry pie, and it said, "Roses are red, so is cherry pie. Friendly reminder, don't drive high. Hashtag don't drive high, hashtag cherry pie day, hashtag rhyme time." So I frankly really hope that your government will have a much more effective social media campaign than this. I don't know who is supposed to be influenced by that particular post. So what I'm wondering is, who developed your social media campaign? Do you have someone like some of the other government departments we've heard about recently who have a person solely to do their Twitter feed that is paid in the realm of $100,000 a year? Do you have a contract with a private company for your social media campaign? What company is it? What are the costs involved? And if it is with the private company, was that a sole source or a competitive bid?
Mr. Buxing, have you been able to take all the questions?
I'm going to actually turn it to our expert in public safety who's been dealing with our communications and public awareness campaign to try and answer the Honourable Senator's questions on the campaign. So I can turn it to Ms. Huggins.
Yes, Ms. Huggins.
Thank you for the question. So the awareness program of public safety that's focused on drug-impaired driving and cannabis has been robust. We do have an outside contract with a company that is helping us develop the campaign, particularly the piece that was launched by the minister in November around the commercial. We can definitely get you the name of the company. We do understand that it was done in consultation with Health Canada and the awareness messaging that they're doing. We have a number of activities going on at the same time. They've got Facebook, they've got tweets. There are dedicated public servants assigned to work on the awareness campaign, and we can definitely provide you with all the details around that.
Okay, so you don't know the name of the company right now as you sit here?
No, I'm sorry, I don't know the name.
Do you know the approximate annual budget?
So we do have budgetary information, but it's not specific to that company. It's the overall cost that we're putting into public awareness.
What is the overall cost?
So on drug-impaired driving for this year is approximately $360,000.
360?
360,000, but that does not include the campaign itself, which was approximately $2.3 million.
Okay, and yes, if you could please get us all the details, including the number of public safety employees who are also allocated to this particular thing, and the costs that would involve as well. And you indicated you have a robust plan. Would you refer to that particular tweet that I quoted to you as robust?
So there are a number of tweets that the communications group runs on at various times. The idea is that they have worked with young people across the country to identify. They did a lot of public opinion polling with young people to see what appeals to them, and they have developed communication pieces as a result of those discussions and consultations.
Okay, moving on to under Part 1 of the bill, Section 8, Sub 1, Sub E. It says, it's talking about how unless authorized under this act, it is prohibited, sub E says, for an individual to possess more than 4 cannabis plants that are not budding or flowering. If somebody could please explain to me, does that mean that you could potentially possess more than 4 plants if they are budding or flowering?
Chair, I don't think anybody at this table here is in a position to answer that question to the Honourable Senator, but we could certainly...
You're going to be in a position to train officers? All the people at this table would be highly involved in training officers in Canada, and you don't know right now the answer to that question?
I think I'd like to refer that question to my colleagues at the Department of Justice, just to get a clear answer and a confirmed answer for you, Senator.
Can they give it to me right now?
Yes, we have in attendance the representative of the Department of Justice. I see Monsieur Saint-Denis, Madame Labelle, that we have had the opportunity to listen to last night. So could you, Monsieur Saint-Denis or Madame Labelle?
So the question is, how many budding
And I
plants?
see Madame Morancy also, but she's hiding behind Mr. Bobsing. So the chair has some problem to make sure that she's in the room.
The
So
question is, the section right now is written in C45, section 8, sub 1, sub E, for an individual to possess more than 4 cannabis plants that are not budding or flowering. So does that mean that you could potentially possess legally more than 4 if they are budding or flowering?
No, in fact, it's the opposite. You're allowed up to 4 plants if they're not budding, and you're not allowed to possess any plant that is budding.
You're not allowed to possess any budding or flowering plants.
That's correct.
0.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, it is.
I said that correctly?
Yes.
Do you think that's a good way to put that out in here? Because to me, that's very, as someone who's looked at a lot of statutes in her life, as practicing law for a lot of, I don't know if Canadians would actually realize that they're not allowed under your bill to possess any budding or flowering plants. It's illegal after this act is passed to possess any budding or flowering plants.
But the limitation, I just want to point out that the limitation is in public. So, I mean, it's got to be read in concert with the provisions dealing with production of cannabis, which states that you're allowed to produce up to 4 plants. You're allowed to cultivate up to 4 plants in a dwelling house. You just can't have any budding or flowering plants in a public place.
That part is not, it doesn't say about the public place. It's section 8(1)D that talks about for an individual to possess in a public place 1 or more cannabis plants that are budding or flowering. That's the prohibition for D, but for sub E, it's for an individual to possess more than 4 cannabis plants that are not budding or flowering. It says nothing about public place
That's
anywhere
correct.
in that section.
So you're allowed to possess in public or otherwise up to 4 plants.
But you're telling me that after this bill is passed, Canadians are not allowed to possess any marijuana plants that are budding or flowering. They will be in violation of C45 if that's the case.
In a public place, yes, that's
It
the limit.
doesn't say anything about public place in that
Well,
section.
it does in paragraph 8(1)D.
Yes,
so
but that's a
E-
different subsection and it doesn't seem to apply. You wouldn't normally apply subsection D to subsection E if there's no reference
No,
to
but
it.
the subsection E talks about a plant that is not budding or flowering.
Yes, that's right.
So those are the plants that you're allowed to possess up to 4.
I know that, but I'm just
So
telling
you-
you that I don't think that your statute is potentially well written on that front, and I think that Canadians will have a lot of confusion and would be quite surprised to hear this particular part of their conversation. Thank you.
Oh,
Oui, voulez-vous ajouter, Monsieur Saint-Denis?
Anything to add, Mr. Saint-Denis? My colleague from Health Canada, John Clare, might wish to add something.
The way the statute works, it's prohibited for anyone to produce more than 4 cannabis plants in a dwelling. There is a possession limit, effectively, that no one can possess more than 4 budding or flowering plants. That's what E states. And D states that in a public place, you can't possess any budding or flowering plants.
Your colleague from Justice Canada just told me that you can't possess even 1 budding or flowering plant.
In a public place. And
You
in
also-
any place, you can't possess more than 4.
But your justice colleague told me that public place or otherwise, you can't possess any 0 budding or flowering plants. And I asked for clarification, and you said that I was.
no, I'm sorry, that perhaps I was misunderstood. The provisions clearly says that you cannot possess in public any budding plant. So not not any, in a public place.
That's what D says.
That's
but
correct.
E makes no reference to public place.
Right, E says that you can't possess more than 4 budding or flowering plants anywhere.
No, E says you can't possess more than 4 cannabis plants that are not budding or flowering. Anyway, I think we'll need some further clarification at a future point. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Followed.